The file arrived inside a batch of old hard drives purchased at an institutional auction. No one knew which department they came from. There was no inventory, no labels, just numbered boxes. One of those drives was damaged. I managed to recover only a single functional folder. Inside, there was audio, scanned text, and one corrupted video file that could only be partially played. The first thing I read was a handwritten field record, later transcribed into text. Independent record, internal use, do not distribute. The document described the installation of automatic cameras in a forested area for environmental monitoring. Nothing unusual: motion sensors, night recording, heat-activated triggers, routine work. But the activation patterns didn't match any known wildlife. There were movement records at heights impossible for local animals, simultaneous activations on cameras separated by long distances in timeframes incompatible with animal speed, linear trajectories, not erratic. The technician in charge left a note: "Does not appear to be animal movement, stable transit pattern." Days later, the first real anomalous event appears. A night camera records a figure crossing the frame. It's not clear, it's not clean, but it's bipedal. Incorrect proportions, long stride, regular gait. The body fills almost the entire height of the frame. The file is marked as discarded due to technical error. But it wasn't discarded, they kept it. The second event occurs a week later. 3 cameras activated in sequence, continuous trajectory, same movement pattern, same silhouette, same size, same form of movement. The technician writes again: "Does not correspond to any registered species, not human." The third event is no longer automatic. It's a field deployment. 3 people, basic equipment, visual verification. The record is not written as a narrative, it's written as a technical log. Time, weather, visibility, ambient sound, temperature. Everything normal until one line: heavy movement detected ahead. It doesn't say animal, it doesn't say person, it doesn't say species, it says movement. Then, figure visible among vegetation. Then, direct visual confirmation. That's where the technical format ends. The rest is written differently, by hand, unstructured. Not local fauna, not human, walks upright, shows no flight response, shows no animal behavior, emits no sound, moves with environmental control. There's a darker ink mark over one sentence: "Does not appear surprised by our presence." The recovered video is fragmented, only 11 usable seconds. Dark, grain, movement, shaking flashlight, and the silhouette. Not frontal, not full profile, 3/4 angle. Wide body, thick legs, long arms, low head. It walks from left to right, doesn't run, doesn't accelerate, doesn't stop. Crosses the frame as if the camera doesn't exist. The last frame is a dark mass disappearing into the trees. Nothing else. No screams, no voices, no human audio. Only breathing and wind. The final record states: "Material not suitable for public archive. Internal classification. Do not continue monitoring in zone." After that, there are no more files. No follow-up, no later reports, no annexes, no investigation. The folder ends there. I checked the drive metadata. The user account had been deleted from the system years earlier. The department listed as the origin no longer exists as an administrative unit. Everything else in the batch was normal data. That one wasn't. That one was isolated, separated, stored without index, as if it had never been created to be found. The most disturbing part isn't the figure in the video, it's the decision that came after. No investigation, no deeper analysis, no documentation, no escalation, no reporting, just cutting the record. ending the monitoring, erasing the zone, breaking the continuity. Not like it was an error, but like it was something already identified internally and not worth continuing to look at. I had 2 weeks of service left when I was assigned to organize old material from the internal library. It wasn't operational archives or recent reports. It was historical documentation, studies, obsolete records, material that was no longer used but had never been destroyed. Entire boxes of folders with no practical value. My mind was already somewhere else. Retirement, leaving quietly, closing that chapter of my life. One afternoon, while going through a thick, unclassified folder, I found an old spiral notebook with a brown cover. It had no official stamp, no institutional logo, no code, just a handwritten title, Unidentified Family Group. I assumed it was some kind of wildlife study. I opened it. It wasn't a technical report. It wasn't a scientific study. It wasn't an official document. It was a collection of observations, notes from different people, dates separated by years, records with no standard format. But they all talked about the same thing. Not one, several, repeated descriptions. Large individual, bipedal, dark fur, smaller specimen, same body pattern, juvenile figure, clumsy movement, 2 adult individuals and 1 smaller, coordinated movement. They didn't use the word offspring. They didn't use the word species. They didn't use the word pack. They used a single term, group. On multiple pages, the same ideas appeared. Interaction between individuals, joint displacement, protection of the smaller specimen, transit formation. One note said, "The largest individual always positions itself between the observer and the smaller one." Another, "The smallest remains behind the adults." There were drawings, simple pencil sketches, large figures, medium figures, a small figure, movement arrows, trajectories. They didn't look like the work of a madman. They looked like the work of someone recording patterns. One page made my blood run cold. This is not an isolated individual. There is social structure. That isn't horror language. It isn't fantasy language. It's observational language. The notebook didn't talk about attacks. It didn't talk about violence. It didn't talk about confrontations. It talked about territorial coexistence, repeated routes, avoided zones, shared areas, seasonal movements, as if someone had been studying something they couldn't name. At the end, there was one page different from the rest, newer, written in different ink. Recording suspended, archived as non-categorizable material. Do not continue documentation. That was all. No signature, no institution, no date. I closed the notebook. I didn't feel fear. I felt something worse, discomfort. Like someone had been following for years, something that couldn't be officially recognized. 2 days later, I went back to look for it. The box was gone. I asked. No one knew what I was talking about. It wasn't in the inventory. It wasn't in the catalog. It wasn't in the library registry, as if it had never existed. I retired weeks later. I never saw anything like it again. But one thing was clear to me after reading that notebook. It wasn't talking about a monster. It wasn't talking about a single isolated creature. It was talking about a family, about something that moved as a group, that protected its own, that had structure, that had social behavior, that had territory. And that, for any system, is far more dangerous than a single unknown thing. Because one thing isolated can be denied. A family means society.